So hi everybody and welcome back to the C++ tutorial series for absolute beginners. This is video 292 and in this video we continue with our expression. We already talked about the operators, that an expression needs an operator and it needs also operands. Then we can identify an expression in our code, but we have to be careful. Not every operator results in an expression, but most of the time it is. And that makes it very easy for us as a beginner to identify an expression. So we learned also that not every expression has a symbol. What I mean with that is normally when we see here something like a plus operator or the other ones which you see here, then we can identify an expression very fast. But here are the special operators, and the special operators are words, and we have to get used to that words can be operators as well, and then they become an expression. So that one we talked in our last video, and here we continue a little bit with this conversion. And this conversion is what you see here. We already talked a little bit because the first one here, let's say here, this one here, the first word, you can see it's already what? An operator of this special operators. But careful, operators are not expressions, what I said in my last video, because when you click on an operator, you go here to the page and then the whole thing becomes an expression. This one is just the operator. We have here operands, and then this is the whole thing is computing something, and that is the expression. That is also our definition. So far so nice. And now what it says here with this conversions, this one should be easy because you can see the conversions in general, this const cast, static cast, dynamic cast, and these are all these castings. They become expressions. Careful, these are again the operators. You have then to click one of this, for example, a static cast, and again the whole thing becomes the expression. And don't irritate by this one. The whole thing becomes an expression, but this one means you can put here also an expression in it. So this was that, and this one should be easy. That's why I go a little bit further here. And here again we have here memory allocation becomes an expression. Again, the word new is one of the special operators. We have them here. The operand is the operator is new, and then again the whole thing, when you go here to this new expression, click on it, again the whole thing when you create allocate memory becomes an expression. All right, and again this is then easy for us here in our code. When you see anywhere a new or one of these words which we have here, then we can identify expressions. All right, I think this is also easy, memory allocation. So we know when we use the word new that we use also delayed, because if we allocate memory, our job as a C++ programmer is deallocate the memory with the word delayed here. All right, then let's go here a little bit further. It says here the other kind of expression, and this constant expression could be a little bit confusing. Let me click here. Oh, I have it already here, but let's watch this again a little bit deeper. Why is this a little bit confusion? It's a more theoretical confusion, not practical. So when we read here this little example here, you can see they are creating here a variable. We had this already. What was this again? Remember here in the statements, it is a declaration statement. Well, like this one here. Okay, this is our declaration statement. And then they are just trying to use this variable which was created here in this part here. You can see here. And then it says here an error is not a constant expression. And now what happens here is interesting. Now this was a declaration statement. Here they are using it similar, just one word more, which is const. And now it is called an constant expression. So it is a constant expression. Why I say this is a little bit confusing, because in our other example here we called this one here a declaration statement, and here in the second part, actually let's analyze this a little bit. We see we are inviting to C++ also a new name, which is cn with the type int, and the only difference is it will be a constant. All right, and then with the two, okay, then it behaves a little bit different. You can see now we can assign this constant because it's not a normal variable declaration, it's a constant variable declaration. We can use it now, for example, in this array because it has a different behavior behind the scene. So, but the point is here why it is so confusing. Why is this not a declaration statement, for example? Like so, because here I told you this one is inviting a new variable in C++, the compiler get noticed, and now actually when you watch this carefully, it is doing the same thing. It is inviting a new variable, it's called cn, to compiler get noticed, but because it has here a special behavior, and yeah, because of this word const, they call it const expression. So you can see they emphasize special behaviors here. In this case, normally I said you this, when you watch this alone, this one has the form of an expression. Why? Because we have here an operator, it's the assignment operator, we have here operand. So normally you could almost say this is also an expression, but because it has a special behavior in C++, like I said, it is introducing here, for example, the new variable name n to C++, so that the compiler get noticed. They call it here it is a declaration, but they call it here a declaration statement. And when we watch this one here, normally this one here is definitely also a declaration. So that would be not wrong. If you would call this one here also a declaration statement, it is not wrong because it is exactly doing the same thing like here. But here we have, let's say, one more functionality. It is also a constant expression. So you can see in theory, they are describing, let's say, this statement in different ways, in categories. And yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but this is more a theory part. In our case, in practical, we are happy, like I said, find an operator. And most time, if you find an operator, it will result to an expression, but it will called a little bit different. Here it is called also a little bit different. Now it's a constant expression. Yeah, this kind of stuff you have to learn on your own little bit in theory, but that will make not big problems in a practical part if this is constant or not. The only important thing is that you know how to use that later. For example, here the normal declaration statement here, you can't use it, for example, creating an array here like so, but here with the constant you can. All right, that's enough for this one, for confusing. We go on. So you have just to keep this in mind. There are some of these exceptions, so, and a little bit confusing, but still manageable, I think. And then we go on. You can see these words here again are again of this special operators. So these are operators, but of course when you click one of them, open this one, use the whole part of it. You can see the operator is this one. The whole part becomes an expression. Again, this the same thing here, but careful. This here means the whole thing is an expression, but you can use the operator here as well with an expression. So we have here not one expression, the whole thing is an expression. We can use here an expression. And this kind of, how to distinguish this expression, we will talk in a moment as well when we go here a little bit further. So here you can watch these words, try to remember them a little bit. So important is just most time that you remember these words, and that when you see this in the code, that you are not irritated and say something like this one here is the word static cast is one of the special words, which is what? An operator. Yes, something like that you have to learn. The good thing is there are not too many. you can remember some of them. If you don't know all now, perfect. I don't know them as well, all, but that's not so important. So let's continue a little bit. We have here so-called primary expressions. And when you read this little sentence, you can see primary expressions are again a little bit confusing, but don't worry. It's not so confusing. First of all, let's start here with this example. They say we have here an expression. Actually, when you watch this one, we have here not one expression. Here we have two expressions. And one expression they call sub-expression, and the other one they call the primary expression in this little example here. So let's go back to the expression definition. What you need to find first? Operators, sorry. Operators, have you found here operators? Yes, one operator here and one operator here. So you can see we have here two operators, and now you have to evaluate these operators. How you evaluate these operators, and remember there is a precedence of operators. One comes first, and in this case you would calculate this first, right, because this is mathematical, and then after you have evaluated this here, which becomes one expression, then you calculate it with this one here with the plus, right? And they call this part here, when you see it, the sub expression. You make this first, and then they call the primary expression the one. But careful, now what is here the problem? The one itself, when you watch the one itself, this looks not like an expression. Why not? Because expression definition was like we need an operator and its operands, right? And they are computing something. And when we watch this one here, wait a minute, this one is nothing computing, this little one here, which is, by the way, when you see this one, are literal. So this one itself is not an expression, but it is a primary expression only in combination when you have something like that. So they are calling this literal primary expression, but you have to think about it not on its own, only in combination when you have something like that, whereas the other one is calculated first and then this one is evaluated later. And this goes for the other ones here as well. Interesting is this. What was the this? That was in classes to point, for example, to the class variable. If there are with two variables with the same name, for example, one in the argument list, one in the class variable list, something like that. And then we can go on. Again, here literals are itself no expressions, but they are called primary expressions here. Only keep in mind when you use it this way here. So this is also a little bit confusing again, because why are this, for example, primary expressions now? Even so they are just literals. Again, you can see the words are overlapping, and the important is all time the use case, the context, and what they are emphasizing, right? So they say here, this literal is used now here in this context with this construct as a primary expression, but the one is still a literal, not an expression itself, but here considered as a primary expression. All right, so here we can go on a little bit further. ID expression, you can read this again. Your job is here just to see this one and then try to figure out this one here. So when you see here a 0, which is a literal, careful, this one, for example, is not a primary expression. Why not? Because this one itself has only one. This is not even an expression, this is a declaration statement, which we learned now. But let's say without this int here, let's say it says here just n here, or let's make this one here, let's copy this one down, paste this one here, and I just write here 1, for example. And why I have here whatever, you know what I mean, because it's not in main here. Then let's say, okay, let's don't do this here. But you know what I mean, right? So if I have here just this part here, this is just one expression, so there is no this double meaning context. All right, I think you get this one. You have just to read this a little bit. If there is a problem, just again, like old time, watch a good C++ book, or just research in the web a little bit. They give good examples, better than mine probably. And we are trying just to understand it. That's a little bit understanding and a little bit using in our code. All right, let's go here, and we come here indeed to the section literals. Like I said before, literals themselves are not expressions, but literals become expressions. So you can see here's even the definition of a literal. Literals are tokens of C++ program that represents constant values embedded in the source code. So these are literals, not expression. But again, literals become expression in the context, in use case, of course, with an operand. Then they are themselves literals, which are presenting a value, and then there is a computation later, like here on top. That is the sentence which you really have to understand, and then to find an operand operators and see what the computation is. And that's not all time easy. All right, so we go here to the literals. You can read here the literals, integer literals. Yes, integer are the numbers. We have the different kind of numbers, binary numbers, octal, decimal, and so on. Then we have the character literals, different formats of the character literals, long, short, and so on, and floating point literals and string literals and so on. So you can click here a little bit here through, see what they are. Again, we talked about these literals. They are more like types when you watch this a little bit. And yeah. And then we have here this Boolean literals. This true false will become also null PTR. Null pointer is also a literal, and so on. All right. I think we go. These other are not so difficult as well, but I think we make here a pause and continue in the next video. So if you have any questions so far, ask in the comment section like old time. And with that said, have fun, never give up, and see you in the next. Bye.